I'm going to tell you the differences in product management of startups versus big tech companies. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another video. My name is Alex. If you're new to this channel, you want to learn about product management and business, make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure to smash the like button and tell your friends that are interested in building and product management about this video on this channel. Also, if you want to be notified when I go live to do webinars, resume review workshops, or other Q&A sessions, make sure to sign up for the newsletter, link in the description below, so that I can let you know when those events are happening. By the way, if you actually want to know how to break into product management, make sure to check out this video that covers that topic. All right, let's get started. Although product managers generally are responsible for end-to-end development and delivery of the entire project, things are a little bit different between top tech companies and startups. In a startup environment, the product manager usually, and a lot of the founding team members, actually wear all the hats. So a lot of the time, the product manager might have to take on new responsibilities and actually be responsible for a lot more. So in a startup environment, the product manager actually is responsible for everything. Any gap that exists at all between the concept and the successful execution of an idea or a product is ultimately the responsibility of the product manager, as the product manager is likely the only person that's responsible for that particular product if you're talking about an early stage startup. A lot of time that's going to be the founder, chief product officer, or chief executive officer, or CEO, or COO. At a bigger tech company, instead, the product manager is primarily responsible for alignment and execution. So making sure that everybody that needs to be notified and involved in making a plan to execute on a product or a suite of products is not only notified, but also aligned and is working together with a cross-functional team to get things done. So a product manager is going to be interfacing with all of the different people that might be involved and making sure that everybody's looking the same direction and working towards the same goals. If this sounds interesting to you, you are considering a career as a product manager, make sure to check out this video to find out whether you have the qualities that it takes to actually be a product manager. Check that out. It might be very helpful if you're thinking about a career in product management. Whereas at a startup, the product manager might actually be doing all of these things. So for instance, product manager might have to act as the person who actually creates the marketing campaign, a go-to-market planner, or a growth marketer, someone that actually does the customer service, the direct sales outreach, the direct customer service. A product manager may often write all the copy for all of the different content that might be involved in a particular product. The product manager might be the one that is making the majority of the decisions in a startup environment, as opposed to really a facilitator or driver of decisions in the big tech format. So when you're thinking of a big company, a product manager is unlikely to actually be able to, or even be in a position to make all of those decisions unilaterally. But in a startup environment, a lot of the times, product manager will be making those decisions for small or big problems or situations or initiatives or key points. And that brings us to the decision-making process. The decision-making process itself is very, very different for those two environment types. At a startup, you might be making hundreds of little decisions very, very quickly. And the product manager may be the one that's actually ultimately making those decisions. Because of the quantity of things that have to be done in any product or business, in a startup, you end up making a lot of those decisions very quickly without necessarily going into as much depth as you would if you were in a bigger company. And by the way, when we're thinking about decisions, I have a separate video talking about just that. So make sure to check it out right there, how to make decisions as a product manager. And when we're talking about startup versus big tech companies, of course, I understand it's a spectrum. It can be anywhere from a single founder startup to a multiple founder startup, a mid-stage or a late-stage startup where you might have some employees, dozens of employees, and you get bigger and bigger. And we go all the way up to the biggest tech companies, which have hundreds of thousands of employees. So keep in mind that, of course, it's a spectrum, but startups generally will consider it to be under 10, under 20 people, and closer to 1, 2, 3, 5 people. And the big tech companies will be thinking about 100,000 plus employees. So when we're thinking about the decision-making process, it's going to be entirely different. At the startup, you're going to be making fast decisions. I mean, that's not my figure now. Fast decisions. You're going to be making decisions frequently, and a lot of the time, the decision-making velocity is going to be extremely important in a startup environment. Whereas in a bigger tech company, your decision-making velocity is not as important as the type of decisions that you make. In a bigger company, as a product manager, you might spend a lot of time thinking about how to present the decision options to different stakeholders and how to align the different people in the different organizations to the direction that you want them to go, that you think is best for the product, best for the company or the organization. And so a lot of time and effort is going to be spent on prioritizing the key things to focus on and making sure you are focusing on making decisions on these issues. Whereas in the startup environment, you are probably going to be making decisions left and right. Often you'll make decisions with little data, or you'll make decisions with no data whatsoever, just based purely on intuition. And that's totally okay. Sometimes in a startup, the cost of not making a decision could be complete catastrophe. So you run out of runway. You have no more funds to continue working. And so you're making those decisions all the time, every single day, every single week. A lot of the time you're saying no. As a startup, you want to say no to as much stuff as possible. And by the way, that is the same. You want to say no often, both in the startup environment and in the big tech environment. And I actually have a separate video talking about the importance of saying no. Make sure to check that out right there. The way that you make decisions will be different also. In bigger companies, you're going to need data in order to sway different individuals or groups. In the startup environment, a lot of the time, those decisions will be made without data at all, even in the situations when you can get data, simply because just there isn't enough time. Now, of course, we definitely want to preach data-driven decision making, but in a startup environment, velocity is the most important thing. Actually, velocity is also important in top tech companies, where because of the size of the organization, so much time is spent in alignment, and you also want to focus on making as rapid decisions as possible. But of course, over there, you're going to spend a huge amount of time preparing the data, presenting the decision options, the different decision paths, the impacts to different parts of the product and the organization and the overall company, thinking through all those options, bringing people in on your preferred solution, and then charting a path forward. Another big difference between startups and big tech companies is the scale. Of course, this may be obvious. As a startup, you may not have any customers, or you have very few customers, so your footprint is smaller by definition. And as a big tech company, sometimes you're dealing with millions, tens or hundreds of millions, or even billions of users and dollars in revenue to contend with. So you're looking at opposite spectrums of the scale question. As a startup, you might do things specifically that don't scale. You might actually talk to each one of your customers one-on-one. You might have direct contact with them as you continue to iterate the product. As a product manager, you may be able to oversee all aspects of your product completely by yourself. You may be able to make all the critical decisions by yourself without bringing in a lot of other folks. So you're focusing on doing things that don't scale as you're looking for that product market fit, as you're figuring out what exactly is going to be special about your product and company. On the other side of things, as a big tech company, you are not at all concerned with this because you are always dealing with problems of scale from the other side. How do you maintain the quality of service or the quality of your product on a scale that's 10 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 times greater than that of what you did as a startup? How do you maintain the personal connection that may have existed before, but now at 1,000,000x the scale, or 1,000 times the scale, or 1,000 times as many users? What are the different types of problems that you encounter as you continue to scale, just first from a purely infrastructure and technical point, but also from a customer service, financial, legal, and all of those aspects? All the questions go right back to scale. So as a big tech company product manager, most often you're dealing with problems of scale. Every question that you answer and every problem that you solve has to be solved at scale to be meaningful for the top tech companies. So both startups and big tech companies are concerned with scale, but complete opposite sides of the scale question. Very important. The opportunities might be different in startup and big tech companies. The opportunities are certainly different. The way that you think about opportunities are completely different. The size of the opportunity itself, whereas a startup might have a maximum size of an opportunity that it could approach. On the other side of things, you actually have a minimum size of opportunity. So you become too big to pay attention to some of these very interesting problems that might exist. But as a small startup, you actually want to focus on these things that you can actually solve. Because of the size of the companies, it's usually difficult or downright impossible to actually take advantage of certain opportunities when you are as big as some of these tech companies are. And as a startup, on the contrary, you want to look for these opportunities, and the way that you think about these opportunities of stepping into an adjacent market or creating a product that is nearby and might expand your opportunity by 20% or 30%. Whereas that might not make any sense at all for a bigger tech company. It might make all the sense to a startup that might actually increase its revenues by 30%, for instance. Big tech companies in general are interested in big, huge opportunities. And while for a startup, 100% growth in a 6 or 7 figure revenue business might be absolutely outstanding, for a top tech company, that might not be feasible at all. It might be a non-starter, and you really wouldn't be able to get anybody excited about it just because of the size of the opportunity. The way that you approach ambiguity is also different. As a big tech company, you really want to cut ambiguity as much as possible, but you have to do it in a slightly different way. And a startup, you might just make decisions that might allow you to bypass an ambiguous question entirely. But in a bigger company, you have to have a process around how you actually get through ambiguity. And I have a separate video talking about just that, so make sure to check that out as well. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the like button and also subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything. And as always, share this video with your friends and let me know down in the comments whether you'd like to work in a startup or a top tech company. And if you'd like to check out a separate playlist about product manager training, check that out right there. And if you want to see a day in the life of a Google product manager, check that out over here. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.